Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. We have a new Arcane journal. I just searched for it and I just saw this video, how to win with Cathay. I think turn up, maybe. Maybe it's a bit more complicated than that, and I'm being a bit glib. But anyway, so essentially the new book that oh no, that's the wrong one, isn't it? It's the second is this one. So we have a new book for the Jade Fleet. So basically, how to describe it? It's sort of a bit problematic for me, but I can see why they've done it. So the rules that they've given Cathay, in addition to the previous rule set, is pretty powerful and unnecessary. So they've essentially elevated an already elevated faction, which is a bit of a joke, really, to be honest. I did watch Square-Based's. Sorry, I should have turned my mic off for that. Apologies. I've just got a bit of a frog in my throat. I usually do. It's the vaping. You see, it's you know. But I'm an idiot who started smoking at the age of, like, I don't know, 14 or whatever, which is about 27 years ago now. So I've smoked for 2/3 of my life, and I have tried to quit at various points. I think the longest I quit for was a year, but then something very disastrous happened, and I went back. But I really should stop because it's just a waste of money. But anyway, Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, has led this host across the world. It's basically sort of landed somewhere in like Marienburg, that kind of thing, and it's there to help the Empire repel the forces of chaos, because Friedal, the Chainmaker, is advancing south, and so Miao Ying brings a host to team up with Marienburg to take down Friedal. Great lore, like excellent narrative, really, really cool. Really brings Miao Ying into the old world. Except it cocks up your internal logic, Games Workshop, because you've told us that we're not doing factions because some factions because they're not in the old world. And then you've released an Arcane journal that's not in the old world, and then actually released a second Arcane journal for the same faction within a matter of months, putting them in the old world. So actually you've got an Arcane journal there, the Cathay Grand Host, that's not based in the old world, that's not an old world depiction of Cathay, and therefore the game is now across the entire world because you fucked up with your internal logic. I use the F word twice per video, or I try to limit it to that. Like Stephen Fry, I do think people who who resist swearing are being a bit silly, because they convey such weight of emotion. Swear words, I think they're wonderful. They convey much more than a simple flipping. So the reason that we haven't got Skaven or Dark Elves, so you say, your narrative reason for that, you've just blown apart, by the way. Just highlighting that. Secondly, why did you make them better? Why didn't you give them like loads of cool narrative rules that on the tabletop didn't really make any difference? I mean, refer back to my other video on behavioural biases and why rules creep happens. There is a perfectly rational and human reason for people to do that, for games designers to do that. It's perfectly normal. That said, because we know how it works, and because the behavioural, sciences are there, you can, like subconscious biases that you may be employing, you can start to identify them and start to realise that you're doing things because of your apishness rather than because of because it's your decision. And I think the one really powerful thing about behavioural science is that it allows you to essentially identify the behaviours that you're doing because you're an ape, because you're an animal, and then actually make better choices, make choices that your mind wants to make, not your sort of baser instinct. And a lot of the decisions that people make, they think it's their mind, but actually it's not. It's something deeper. And that's what behavioural science really, which came about, well, which was kind of popularised in the 80s, was really all about like trying to help people understand why they do some of the things they do. Because, you know, you do things sometimes and you're not comfortable with the thing that you've done because you haven't really made that decision. Anyway, let's talk about the Jade Fleet and not the behavioural sciences. There is another video, and if I remember, I shall try to link to it around about here. Where are we? 5 minutes in. But anyway, so the army composition is exactly the same as the normal one, except you can't have lanterns and sentinels in special. You know, there's no thing. Miao Ying can be taken. She's the only dragon. So that's the other difference, sorry, because in the normal ground host it's 0 to 1 dragon per 1,000 points, which makes me think we're going to get the other dragons in time. And then we've got the normal Jade Warriors. You can take 0 to 1 Lancers per 1,000. Again, like if you wanted to make it like characterful, you'd have made Jade Lancers like maybe rare, because you've just brought a load of stuff across in ships. And so the stuff that's harder to transport in ships is, well, horses. Horses are quite difficult to transport all the way around the world in a load of boats. Because, you know, horses generally require pasture and a lot of it to stop them from going mental. So, you know, if you lock a horse up in its stable for too long, they start to go a bit mad. So, you know, it's very difficult transporting horses. It's arguably more difficult transporting horses than it is cannons. But anyway, whatever. You know, Games Workshop, you decided not to do that, haven't you? You decided to give us these rules instead. And we've got the traditional artillery and stuff. The cool thing is you get some mercenaries, so you get up to a third can be captain, master mage, priest. Now, they don't suffer from the misbehaving mercenaries rules. Of course they don't. Why would they? Why would anybody associated with anything to do with Cathay suffer from any downsides whatsoever? Why would you limit the Cathayan player at all? Absolutely crazy. Don't want them. So, I mean, what realistically are you going to see? I mean, what you're probably going to see, because there's a special rule basically that if you're within 6 inches of an Empire unit, your Cathay troops get to reroll ones to hit or something like that. Where's the special rules? Here we go. Yeah, reroll hit roll of 1. Within 3 of a friendly mercenary unit. So a single character is a mercenary unit. So you could take like a probably a master mage would be a good idea, because then you could kick out some magic damage. That also gives you access to I think demonology is the extra lord that the Empire wizards have. So you can have a bit of demonology for, you know, maybe a lore familiar and maybe like a power scroll or something, and maybe you can use that then to give your big unit of Jade Warriors Steed of Shadows, which you previously didn't have access to, but now you do have access to. Not as reliably as you could have access to it, of course. I mean, it's only a master mage, it's only a minor one, but still. And I think the other thing you might see some Empire Archers, because they are cheap little units. You might see some Empire Archers. You might actually see some Outriders, because they're pretty decent too. Within this whole list, you know, especially if somebody's gone for, like, you know, Lancers. You know, a unit of Lancers you can make to be 250 points anyway. So filling your core with 2 units of Lancers in a 2k list is absolutely fine. Easy done. And then to back them up, you could have like a unit of Outriders, maybe. But I mean, I don't know why you would have a unit of Outriders, because a Sky Lantern is better than a unit of Outriders. So It's arguably got more or less the same missile output, more wounds, better armor save, and is actually weirdly a little bit more maneuverable, which is absolutely crazy, considering it's a freaking balloon. And I don't know, for some reason these balloons seem to have an amazing turning circle. I know it's a world of magic, and I believe that the world has dragons in, but there is this kind of a fundamental logic behind dragons in that they are sort of magical creatures, and they fly as much with magic as they do with their wings, perhaps. Whereas this is just a balloon with some guns on, so it feels very, very steampunky and therefore not magical, and therefore it's a bit immersion breaking if you've got this massive lantern that's basically the size of a small tower block that can turn on a dime, apparently. But anyway, yeah. So you might see a bit of Empire Archers. I think mainly the Empire Archers or the Pistoliers or Outriders or whatever would be there to just give the re-rolls. But I guess that's another reason why you might see Outriders, in that if you've got a unit of Lancers, you might have a unit of Outriders to sort of accompany the Lancers, give them re-roll ones, and then have a bit of shooting output as well. Right, and it's got to be 3 inches, so you've got to be quite close. But then again, there is a real advantage in doing that, is because what you can do is you can butt your units right up to the back of your units, and so if your unit gets defeated in combat, it can't get pushed back because it's got nowhere to go. It doesn't pop through. It does if it flees. So if you're falling back in good order, you're fleeing, so you pop through. But if you're not, so that there's reason for you to do that anyway, and you can do that obviously with your characters and stuff, and yeah, and I think Jade Warriors. I mean, I don't know why I'm doubting this, but I think Jade Warriors have shield wall and can be made stubborn as well. Presumably, probably can. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's only a few days since I. Oh, come on, Dan, work it out properly. Check it out. The folder thing in this old world builder is a bit weird, if I'm being honest. I'm not quite sure about it. No. Monitor. What? Oh, for God's sakes. No. Thank you. Grand Cathay. Oh, why is the internet being so slow? Right, so yeah, of course we can have. Oh, we don't have shield wall. Okay, so you can't. Is there? I bet there's a banner. I bet there's a banner, isn't there? I bet there's a banner that does shield wall or something. Oh, why is the internet being so slow? Yeah, they get the fly thing. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's not that one. Could be that one. That's being slow as well. Fuck's sakes. Oh, that was the second one. Damn it. Not that I really mind swearing. I think egregious levels of swearing is a bit gauche, but the occasional effing and jeffing I think adds flavour. Right, anyway, wage in causes fear. I'm sure they had a way of getting shield wall. They do. So you can give them shield wall. So essentially, if you put like a little master mage behind your unit, when it gets charged, it can use stubborn to downgrade the loss into a fallback in good order, and then can it then give ground instead of falling back? Yes, that is right. And then you can then use the shield wall to give ground instead. And because you've got something right behind you, you can't give ground, so you have to stay there. So with all of those rules, you can sort of layer up your unit of Jade Warriors so it doesn't have to fall back at all, which isn't overpowered at all. Oh no, the other thing, it is. This is entirely broken. Yeah. And to be honest, other factions can sort of do that as well. Like dwarves can do that to an extent, but like. The reason it's not a problem within dwarves is because that's dwarves' whole thing. Like, that is their cool thing. Whereas this is just another thing that Cathay can do in addition to being able to do all the cool stuff of all the other factions. So within the Jade Fleet, you've got Cathay and Black Powder. the first time any unit with a handgun, pistol, repeater handgun, or repeater pistol, blah blah blah, the range of that weapon is increased by 3. Realistically, that's just the Sugar Daddy and Magistrate and Sugar Zaddy, and they've all got access to these sorts of weapons. There's Dragonfire Pistol, one of those. Oh no, it's not. No, this applies to Idiot. This is me being an idiot. So Cathay and Black Powder is better than White Man Black Powder, because it is, and or Brown Man Black Powder actually. Cathay and Black Powder is better than Western or Araby Black Powder or Dwarven who invented it, Black Powder. Yeah, apparently. So humans, Cathay are humans, aren't they? You often forget, don't you? Because they've made them so good, they feel above human, don't they? And I forget that they are supposed to be just humans. But anyway, these just humans from Cathay, when they give their Black Powder to Empire people, their range goes up a little bit, but only the first time. Because apparently after that they don't use it again, or something. They freely shared their stockpiles, but not that freely, because they can only use it once, and only the first time they shoot, because there's something to do with what is going on. Like, why even put that as a rule? Like, it's just so dumb. So I'm trying to not be one of those people that just rant about things all the time, but it's just a silly rule that makes no difference, and just, why is it there? What what is it doing? Like, what does it actually, like? It gives you an extra bit of range on, like, on I mean, what's really going to use it? I mean, I don't know. Where's the arrows? There they are. So they've got repeater handguns. Can repeater handguns use it? Yeah, repeater handguns can use it. So maybe these got up to range 27 instead of 24. I mean, that makes no difference, because both of those ranges are, and it gives your half range 13.5 rather than 12. Which I guess is quite good, actually, because that 13.5 half range means you can get within half range with repeater handguns of infantry and pepper them, which gives you an extra round of shooting, basically, or an extra round of shooting at +1 BS, maybe. I don't know. And pistols, maybe that's useful in a brace of pistols, because they're not very long range. But, like, anyway. Once per game, each unit or detachment of state missile troops can fire with 1 additional rank. I think that's Nuln's rule, isn't it? So basically, the Cathay are so brilliant that that you put any Empire troops near them, and they all become as good as Nuln. They all become like they've been drilled for an entire lifetime, because they've somehow gone a bit near the Cathayans. They're now just, they're now as good as these troops in Nuln that have been essentially drilled since they were very young. Any Empire goes anywhere near Miao Ying and are instantly better, apparently. Unit of Jade Warriors within 3. So it's Warriors or Lancers get to the reroll ones within 3 of a friendly mercenary unit. I mean, you've got Miao Ying. They're probably up to weapon skill 5 at this stage. The one thing I'm really grateful for is there's nothing to improve their toughness or their strength. Like, I'm so grateful that Games Workshop didn't give them the High Elf banner of +1 toughness as well, because I would be incensed. I'm just under incensed at the moment, by the way. But I know you possibly can't tell, but the whole, I don't know. Anyway, shut up, Dan, and get on with it. And then we've got some war balloons, which can be ambushes, and they can re-roll the dice for ambush when they're in ambush, because of course they can, because they're brilliant. I mean, I don't know why you do that. I think you want them on the table, don't you? Like to begin with, like even at the start of the battle, they've got 36-inch range. Like I mean, maybe if your opponent's got like a null list. In fact, no. You do want to do this, don't you? Because because if you've got the army that can easily beat you, i.e. in a null list, so if your opponent's got like a null or an expeditionary force, right, and you've gone for the Cathay and cannon build, which is very very good, but it doesn't quite out cannon null or expeditionary force. But what you can do is you can then, with this, you can then pop those balloons that you were taking off the table. So their cannons can really only kill your cannons. And then your balloons come on later and just kill their war machines or whatever. Yeah, maybe. They are wounding on 5s because their guns are strength 6, I believe, aren't they? I can't remember. Grand Cathay, Sentinel. Oh no, it's the Sky Lantern. Should be 230 points for a Sky Lantern, but it isn't. Yeah, that one. Strength 6. Strength 6 AP2. 5 of them for 150 points. Just to point this out again, but Skaven have to pay the same for those, but they're on the ground and they can't move and shoot. Just saying. Oh yeah, and the Skaven ones. I guess the Skaven ones come with a few more wounds, don't they? Yeah, because there's no way of getting a lantern up to 10 wounds. Oh no, hold on, there is. You pop a magistrate on, isn't there? Yeah, and magistrates, are ridiculous. No, they're not ridiculous. They're only 40 odd points, aren't they? So you can have an amazing chariot with a huge amount of range potential that's actually quite difficult to kill for 200 points. Okay, so that's that. Unlocking new combos with Empire Mercenaries. Oh, that's them talking about what you can do, and then of course, and this I found really baffling. But Cathay get some more magic weapons. Now, bearing in mind, I think they're one of probably, I'd say, 2 factions where you don't have to use the rulebook magic items. And to be honest, I would be okay with the Cathay magic item list if they didn't have access to the normal magic items that are in the rulebook. I think, given the slate of their magic items, I think it is way more powerful actually than the default. Look, we'll just go through it, right? So the first one, you got this Sword of Reason, 65 points. Remember, Ogre Blade is kind of like your benchmark for a decent magic weapon, right? So Ogre Blade is 75 points, strength plus 2, AP2, that's the same. Ogre Blade requires 1 hand, so you can still use it with a shield, which is pretty good. And does multiple wounds, D3. So each individual attack, typically your character's got 3 or 4 attacks. 1 or 2 is going to go through, and you're going to do a few wounds. This on the other hand has Killing Blow, so you get a really good buff. You get a really good AP on this weapon. Plus you get, now remember, the Killing Blow weapon that's in the rulebook, you get +1 strength, I think, and is it AP1? I can't recall exactly what it is, but it's Headsman's Axe, isn't it? So strength +1, AP1, killing. So this is exactly the same as the Headsman's Axe, but it costs another 20 points for strength +1 and another AP. And I think 10 points for an extra strength and then another 10 points for an extra AP is perfectly fair and balanced and in line with the Headsman's Axe. However, this one does a Killing Blow on a 5 or 6 rather than a 6. So basically, the strength and AP upgrades are free, at least, because that 5 and 6 rule, somebody did suggest, I can't remember the name, and I'm really sorry because I've forgotten. I'm terrible with names in general, so, apologies. But somebody mentioned, why not try and put stuff through ChatGPT and see if it can identify an algorithm for working out points values? And I really want to give that a go, actually. It's a really good idea. I don't know whether it'll work, but you know, we shall see. We shall see. That's the point of doing a kind of a pilot study, isn't it? Right. So these guys have. It's one of those. So this is strength +1, AP 1, and with the 5 or 6 instead of the 6. This isn't two hands, so you know you can probably you know give it an extra 5 points for it being one-handed. Maybe an extra 5 points. So for an extra 15 points, they're +1 strength and minus 1 AP on this, which I mean, I know which one I'd take. Like, I think that this one is way better because of the extra strength and the extra AP. Because it just makes it, you know, if you don't roll that 6 to hit, it just makes it quite a lot more reliable. You know, it's basically a great weapon or a halberd, right? So the vampire counts the masters of killing blow, or should be anyway, because that's kind of should be their thing. There should be a lot of killing blow and cleaving blow in vampires. I feel like it feels like that's kind of like how it should work. But anyway, and then we've got the brazen blade, which is weird. Actually, this is actually a good item. I think this is well designed. I just want to pause it so. There we go. So they're not looking. So I didn't notice their faces when I paused it. I just noticed it then. It's a problem with pausing videos. The brazen blade, you know, is a bit kind of enemy models are not permitted ward or regen if the wielder rolls a 6 when making the roll to wound, which is quite cool. Multiple wounds, 2 magical attack strength. This is cool, actually. This has some interesting rules. It's 50 points, so it's reasonably expensive. I think that's a fair, you know, whatever. Like that's a good magic weapon, the brazen blade there. Then you've got the Wrath of Zen Yang, which you just can't take regen against. It's not got multiple wounds, but again, you know, it's quite competitively priced. It's okay. It's got flaming attacks as well. Yeah, I mean, it's like an anti-regen thing. It's quite cool. I like this. I like this quite a lot. So that's a good magic weapon where, you know, well written, it's balanced, it's not too much of anything. And then you got the Sword of Nangao, which is Hatred, Warriors of Chaos, AP 3 magical attacks. This is like perfect to kill Chaos Warriors because you don't really need that much of a strength bump if you're Cathay against Chaos. You know, the reroll hits is really good, and then the AP 3, well, Chaos tend to be heavily armoured, so that absolutely makes sense. However, though, thematically within a host that's been dispatched to kill Chaos, I don't get the I don't get this. Like, is there a bit where there's the head at the top? Okay, no, it doesn't even say, like, narratively that these are the weapons that Miao Ying has taken with her. It's just this is just more weapons. Okay, fine. So yeah, they've not broken their own law there, although they have with the Grand Journal, as previously discussed. So we've got a couple of magic armors, which make me want to punch someone. So we've got a suit of full plate armour for 40 points with a 5 at ward and magic res 2. Now, 5 at ward costs everybody else 30 points. You know, pretty much. There are some items that are slightly better that cost slightly more, but whatever. This is this gets magic res 2. Now we know an obsidian lodestone costs 15, so that's 70 points of item for 40. So everybody else has to pay 70 for those effects. Oh, and full plate armor, which is like probably another 10. So everybody else has to pay like 80 points for all of these effects, whereas Cathay get it for half price because good at haggling. Don't know. Do you want to go with that racial stereotype that all the magic weapons are cheap because they're good at haggling or something? You want to go for that? I guess you can do, but a bit insensitive. Then you've got the Mantle of Heaven. Sorry, I say that firmly with tongue in cheek. But do you know what I mean? It's like I really don't understand why that's not 60 points, or why is it so cheap? Like, what combination was one of the playtesters so desperate to take when this thing hit? Do you know what I mean? You've got to have, that's got to be a build that somebody's really likes and just wants that thing on the table. So, you know, you give that to a Sky Lantern, and yeah, you don't get the benefit of the full plate, but you do get a 5 at Ward and Magic Res 2 on a Sky Lantern for almost no points. Really, really good. Or you can put it on a Sugar Daddy or a Sugar Zaddy, and, you know, off they go. You know, because you've got although this other item is probably where you're going to see. So neither of these are common, which is good actually, because you can't take both of them, but you can take this. They get a +2 armor value against non-magical shooting with it for this mantle of heaven. It's basically how the enchanted shield used to work. Which, you know, was normally... So the Enchanted Shield used to be just +2 to save, I think, in 6th. And then I think maybe in a later edition it was +2 against shooting and +1 in combat, I think. But or something like that. And now it's just a 6 at Ward. Maybe once a game. Maybe all the time. I don't know. It's not very good. Mantle of Heaven, you know, that's... But I think this is probably quite a good one to go on, like a Sky Lantern. Now, the wearer of the Mantle of Heaven improves their armor value by 2. So actually, technically, that only gets a Sky Lantern down to 3, because the Magistrate, I think, has heavy armor or has access to heavy armor. Does that actually work at all on... Because obviously the wearer is the owner, and it's their armor save that's improved, and then you take the best when you're on a chariot. So anyway, light armor. So yeah, it's absolutely useless on Magistrate. That's the Lord Magistrate? Yeah. So absolutely useless on the Lord Magistrate, unless there's a way of getting. I guess you could put some armor on it, like can't take shields. That one is not helpful. Have they got any armor? No, none of theirs are common, are they? And this new item is common, so you got to have... Yeah, I don't think there's any way of actually getting the that to be of any... So that really goes on a Sugar Daddy or a Sugar Zaddy, doesn't it? So just to make them a bit better against shooting, which is great, because they kind of like float around like magic casters that can kill war machines quite easily. And then, of course, we've got some talismans. So yeah, Jade Armor of Bai Chai, is totally nuts. The Mantle of Heaven, bit rubbish, as far as I can see. So then we've got Sigil of Smoke and Powder. Okay. Any enemy model that targets this character or any unit they've joined during the shooting phase suffers an additional -1 to hit modifier. 35 points, pretty standard item that every other faction has. And of course, Cathay can't not have something, because they're brilliant, aren't they? Because Games Workshop say so. If they're so brilliant, why haven't they taken over the world already? Well, because they have no territorial ambitions. They only want to defend their motherland, of course. Absolutely not looking over the sea at... like, it's just... I don't know. It's just... They just seem to have just swallowed this, like... I don't know. I don't get why people have such a blind spot to, like, you know, I'm coming back to the real world now, but why people have such a blind spot to, like, other nations who clearly have malintent towards you. you know, or your country. I just don't get why people. It seems to be a curiously modern phenomenon, really. If you go back 50 years, everybody was okay with like the ancient enemy being like the French and the new one being the Russians. I mean, that was you know, and the Chinese and whatever, you know, and that was like pretty normal. Whereas nowadays we seem to have a bit of a blind spot, and we tend to be a bit like, oh, they're all right, really. It's like, well. No, they're not. They're all engaged in some kind of genocide or like murdering their own population for no reason whatsoever. And they're all pretty. You wouldn't want to live there. Not really. You wouldn't want to be a citizen of there. The value system is very different and oppressive. You know, and why we've got such a blind spot and we just sort of swallow propaganda and just spit it out like it's just a fact. I don't know. I know the Chinese are good at fireworks, but that doesn't make you good at guns. Just, you can quote me on that. Well, not necessarily, anyway. I mean, it could do, but I mean, that's not... Anyway, shut up, Dan. Vermilion quills, single use, 0 to 1 a model, even though they're common. They can re-roll failed hit and wound rolls, but not their mount. So you're never going to see that. Totally useless. Like, why would you have 4 sugar daddies with these just to, you know, what is that? Stupid. Bearing in mind, within this host, you can easily get reroll 1s to hit, and you're probably going to be hitting on 2s or 3s anyway, so spending... You know, it's common, so their intention is for this to be so good that you're going to see it on champions. And champions aren't going to spend 25 points on this. Rubbish. So finally, we found something in Cathay that's rubbish. Well done, it's the Vermilion Quills. Oh no, hold on. Vermilion. Because Vermilion is with double L, isn't it? What the hell does Vermilion mean then? Or have I got the spelling wrong? Oh no, I have got the spelling wrong. I thought it was always Vermilion. I thought Vermilion was always 2 L's. Huh. Well, there you go. Huh. Okay, well, fair enough. That's me being an idiot then. Vermilion Quills. It still looks wrong though. Vermilion Quills. I've said that word too much. Banner of the Dragon's Wrath. You get flaming and impact hits 1. A unit carrying gets impact hits 1. Oh, come on, G-Dub. Where's the designer's note? Like, come on. You know the obvious question there. Like, surely somebody at some point said, oh, you've got to... You mean whether you mean the entire unit or you mean each model. I guess for 45 points they mean each model. Because flaming attacks is like, I don't know, on a banner worth like 15 points maybe. So... yeah, you know, it's definitely impact hits 1 for everybody, and that's pretty cool. And it is sort of slightly broken because remember the Lancers, even if they're just following up, so even if they force the enemy to give ground, they count as charging, don't they? So do they get an impact hit? Because an impact hit, don't you have to move 3 inches in your charge? So you probably actually no. Thinking it through, actually. I think, yeah, so your Lancers wouldn't be able to do it because they wouldn't get the 3-inch range. I think is how I'd rule it, but because you don't want them getting impact hits every goddamn turn. That would be stupid. Well, Games Workshop probably do want them to get impact hits every turn, but I think that's stupid. Well, unless you're going to make this banner cost like 90 points or something, in which case, fair enough. You know, I have absolutely no problem with like weapons or artifacts or whatever being totally overpowered. As long as they are very expensive and you're paying through the nose to do this cool thing. Like the High Elf, you know, +1 toughness banner. Great ability. 85 points is a lot, though, for a banner. It's a lot to add on to a unit. You know, because normally you want it on a unit that's either really big or really elite. And, you know, if you're putting it on some, like, Dragon Princes, you know, tops... You're going to have 10 Dragon Princes in a unit, right? So you're essentially paying 8 points per model for +1 toughness. I think that's fair. Or it might be in a big unit of, let's say, 40 Leathern Sea Guard, and so you're paying 2 points per model to make your Sea Guard toughness 4. Again, that seems quite fair. That seems okay. And as long as it's only one unit, that's all right. Absolutely no problem with that. It's when you get really, really cool things like this, all of this stuff for like 40 points. It's like, you know, I guess they'd say, well, why would you take this over the other items if you just wanted those effects? And yeah, I get that. I get that to an extent. But then why write the goddamn rules in the first place? You know, crafted in secret. Look at the narrative, right? Crafted in secret in the city of Beijing, this jade armor glows from within with unwholesome power. So I don't know, 4+ armor save, unwholesome power, like +1 strength, maybe. You know, +1 to charge ranges or something. You know, not +1 to casting because they've already got enough casting stuff. There's loads of cool things that you could have added to it, which would have been like slightly, you know, would have given a bit of flavour. You know, or you know, the power just makes it, you know, faster for some reason. Like, I don't know, gives it +1, +2 to its move characteristic or whatever, which would be quite cool and make like a super fast, you know, whatever. But why give it a load of abilities that you can just buy elsewhere and just give Cathay a 40-point discount on all those abilities? Nuts. And it's not like all those abilities like don't really synergize. I don't mind them combining a load of abilities that don't synergize very well, and like for a characterful reason, like unholy power. Like what could you give it? You could give it like, oh, I don't know, magic resistance 2 but -1 to cast or something stupid. So something like that. So it's like, okay, or you get magic res 3 but you're -1 to cast yourself. I think that'd be quite cool, because then it's almost like it's diverting the power from the caster to you know, wizards only, diverting the power from and wizards can wear, oh, they can anyway, sorry, the sugar daddies, can't they? They've got the chaos armor rule, which they're calling celestial GW bullpoop armor, or whatever. When calculating, so we got the jade banner. But you see what I mean about like designing the rules for stuff. You could have made it cool and interesting, and like have a bit of a trade off, and you know, people would make decisions. And I think that would be quite a cool, you know, quite a cool talking point. But instead, you just said, "Oh no, just have all the rules for half price." Well, good. And you're like, "Oh, okay." Or something like, I don't know, -1 to hitting, shooting, and swift stride, or something for, you know, on an item. You know, or you know, like for instance, swift stride and fire and flee. For instance, you could have both of those, which they don't. That doesn't synergize very well at all, really. It does a little bit, but not very well at all. Anyway, so Jade Banner, +2 combat res. There are so many factions that get +D3 for about 40 points. Why they've given them +2 for 40, I don't know. I can't recall anybody else off the top of my head that have plus. Oh, there is, isn't there? There is, isn't there? No. I think there are other factions that have similar things. Not that, you know, that's a massive benchmark. Where do I? Oh, here's. Oh, hold on. There. Here we go. Then we have the Shroud of Shiyama. A Shroud of Shiyama. I don't know what accent that was supposed to be. The spectral presence of Shiyama, the spirit dragon, lingers about and blah blah blah. Crafted in her memory, apparently. They get fear, and if they're already fearing, then they cause terror. Yeah, fine. Yeah, good. Banner of Zhenwun. Enemy units that wish to declare a stand and shoot or fire and flee charge reaction against a unit carrying the banner of Zhenwun must first take a leadership test. If this test is passed, they may declare a stand and shoot or fire and flee charge. Oh, so that's the target, isn't it? I was just thinking, why would you want to not? Yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay. It's not very good, but I mean, fine. It does an effect, and it's, you know, enemies often falter, but then that narrative doesn't match the effect really. But I mean, yeah, whatever. Who actually reads the narratives? Then we've got more, of course. Sorry, just seen Val's face. So we've got the Ring of Jet, 1 per model, common though, and they get Unquiet Spirits as a bound spell with a power level of 2. Oh, jeez. Oh. Unquiet Spirits is really good. I think, isn't it? Is it? Where's the bloody wizard? No, not Grandmaster. That's not a wizard. Wizard Lord. Here we go. Then I need to find Necromancy, isn't it? Unquiet Spirits. Here we go. 3d6 strength 2, no armor save. 15-inch range. You can quite happily make that an 18-inch if you give it Law of Yin. Is it? Is that the +1, +3 range on magic missiles and vortices? I think it is. As a bound spell, power level 2. Power level 2's. I mean, I'm surprised it's not power level 3 because they did that with the Sentinels. But I mean, whatever. I mean, Unquiet Spirits is a really good spell. It is a magic missile ring thing. They've obviously got access to the other magic missile ring thing. I think any faction in the game would be delighted with that as a... Because 3d6, that's like 10, strength 2, wounding on 6s, so it's probably just about 2 or 3 mortal wounds. But you can spike at like 4 or 5, so it can be pretty devastating. But on average, like 2 or 3 mortal wounds is what you're getting. I mean, you know, obviously that 3d6 hits can be 5, and then you can fail all of them. So it's really unreliable, and it can swing the other way. You end up with nothing. But 2 or 3, basically the equivalent of 2 or 3 mortal wounds, pretty good. Pretty good. So, I'm still absolutely shocked to the port about the spelling of Vermilion. I have had that wrong my entire life. I was this days old when I found out Vermilion only had 1 L in it. It does. No. It does. It does definitely have 1 L. Yeah. Golden Lion. Gold Lion's gonna tell me where the light is. Bearer of the Golden Lion in their unit may reroll any fear, panic, rally, or terror tests. For 25 points. That's really good. Yorkshire Gold. I need to get my Earl Grey out, really, but I don't know where I've put it. We've got a big cupboard in the kitchen. No, we haven't. We've got a standard-sized wall cupboard in the kitchen. It is crammed with tea, though. All different types. Lots of herbal stuff that, you know, the girls in the house like. I like Earl Grey and Yorkshire Gold. Anyway, the Bearer of the Gold Lion. Oh, we've done that one. The Fires of Nangao. Common. The Ring of Jet, I mean, that being common, 30 points is okay, I think, because that just prices it out of being a unit champion style item. Now, I've said that, and I haven't checked that the old unit champions aren't allowed more magic items. And of course, for some reason, this isn't working. Why would you want something to work? Right, 25, cool. So it is outside of that. But you can, of course, put a Golden Lion in your unit of infantry, which is pretty cool. Reroll any panic, fear, rally, or terror. That's pretty decent. And then the Fires of Nangao, you can also give it as a breath weapon, 0 to 1 per model. It's not. It is single use. Sorry. That's the one that's not single use. This is single use. I mean, it's a pretty decent breath weapon, but I don't think you're going to see it taken very often. Maybe for like a champion of some lancers, you know, who can then go around something. Maybe you might see it on a balloon. You know, I don't know. It's not very good. it's okay. And the problem is, something like that you'd, in any other faction, you might see that from time to time in tournament lists. In this faction, you won't, because they've got so much stuff other than this that's really, really good. Like, both these other two enchanted items are, excellent. And then, of course, you've just got to think about the other enchanted items that they've already got, which are brilliant. Which, you've got the Alchemist's Mask, isn't it? So you can get Plague of Rust, power level 3, 35 points. Absolute, worth its weight in gold. 35 points for that at power level 3. Absolutely nuts. 21-inch Hex, -2 to its armor save, cast on a 9, power level 3 means a 6. It's absolutely ridiculous. Spirit Lantern's okay. You're probably not going to see it. And Morshard is fantastic because any doubles to cast from your opponent count as miscasts, which can't be re-rolled because it's a miscast. So it's not a failed casting roll; it's a miscast. So they've already got two really, really good enchanted items. Plus, the Ring of Jet is another really, really good enchanted item. I mean, I think because the Ring of Jet is common, you can have the Ring of Jet and the Morshard on one balloon, and then the Alchemist's Mask and another Ring of Jet on another balloon, which just, to me, feels really broken. But basically because both of those models come in for about 250 points. And they're really difficult to kill in shooting because they've got, like, toughness 6? 5 or 6? I can't remember off the top of my head, actually. I like the Sentinels, though, but yeah, toughness 5, 7 wounds, 4 up save. They're really difficult to kill, unless you focus fire on them, and then you're focusing fire on something that's 250 points. Whereas really, I want to be focusing my fire on units that are particularly early doors. I want to be focusing on those units that are like 500 points plus and try and burn them down and get those points in the bank. I don't really want to be targeting all of my army at a tiny little chariot thing that's got a ton of output for no reason. And that's kind of how Cathay's been calibrated, because they don't want people with their new toys to not be able to use them. Which again is one of those psychological biases. Like, they want people to get value for money out of it. And if you just put it on the table and it gets taken straight off, you haven't got value for money. So, they've given you these distraction carnifexes. And the whole point of a distraction carnifex is that it was a distraction because they are, they never really, the distraction carnifex never really got to combat, but because you had to kill it before it got there because it was mental, right? It was horrible. So people used to take a distraction carnifex, which allowed them to use the rest of their army because people were focusing fire on that. And why is this bloody thing not working? Like, the reason I record in the morning is because nobody's on the internet normally where I am. But yeah, flipping thing. Right, and then where's the bloody yes, and here we go, the last one. Oh no, hold on, was that all the enchant? Was there okay, arcane items start with this clock. Oh no, okay, then this is all the arcane items, then that's it. Okay, then we've got some arcane items. We've got clockwork compass. Instead of making a dispel, auto dispelled, so an old-fashioned dispel scroll, and it gets rid of all remains in play spells, including ones cast by you. Looking at like the spells that Cathay are going to be casting, it's largely direct damage, isn't it? And debuffs and curses and hexes and magic missiles. I don't think they're going to employ vortices very much. And that's really good, especially if you're up against something like Bretonnia, because Bretonnia have a lot of buffing spells that are remains in play. Nurgle has one. The Dark Elves have a few curses that are kind of remains in play, I think. Have they? I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a few factions that have a few bits. I mean, the most notable one is essentially Bretonnia, because you can give your knights like extra AP, strength, and regen, which is pretty nasty. So this can turn off all of those. Especially if your opponent's got like a damsel heavy list and they're sort of making hay by buffing up those other units. But I don't think you're going to see it in tournaments. It's just a little bit too expensive for what it does. Again, other factions might take it, but Cathay have already got stuff that's really good. You've got the Seal of Jingpo. You get 2 signature spells from Yin or Yang instead of just one, which is pretty cool because the signature spells are pretty decent. So you don't mind rolling in your lore a bit. And then you got the Scrolls of Wei Jin, which know one more spell. And again, this is just a minor little gripe, but like everybody else pays 15 points for them. Why did Cathay only pay 10? Like, like, is it because they're cheap? Is that what you're saying? Cathay are cheap. They don't like paying full price for things. It's all bargain basement. Yeah, you want your bargain basement, spell familiar. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. So, I think that's about it from the new Cathay Arcane Journal stuff. There's some stuff in there about terrain and all this other stuff. So actually, like, if you can get a copy of the book without paying GW any money for it, do that. Which you probably can. It'll be on some platform at some point. Which, it'll be quite interesting. I've read the terrain rules, which are quite cool, but nobody will do them. And this is, I suppose, a constant theme over the years of playing Warhammer, is that they've actually released some pretty decent, like, terrain deployment rules. Like, I remember there was one edition of AOS in particular where they had this, like, mini game where you place terrain, like, alternately with your opponent before a game, and you sort of made the table together, but there was like a sort of a mini game involved in that, and that was really, really cool. But nobody did it. And I fear the same is true of the new terrain rules in this particular, the second Cathay Arcane Journal, which is kind of a bit, yeah. There's some stuff in there that apparently tells you how to, deal with doubles games and multiple players and stuff like that. But I mean, that's not difficult. You don't really need rules for that. You just make it up yourself. But yeah, that's the new Arcane Journal. So, oh look, there we go. Go watch that video. Actually, I've watched a little bit of it, but I'm sure they've probably got a better take on that because they run tournaments all the time and I don't. So it'd be quite interesting to. I need to watch that. Actually, I need to see that. But anyway, that's my take on the new Grand Cathay. I just think it's taken a bad situation and made it worse. To be honest, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I genuinely don't know what they're going to do to balance out Cathay. I think what people who are pro them are relying on, and again, looking at the data, it's still really early days. There really isn't enough data to draw any conclusions. So but you look at the emerging pattern, and you look at that emerging pattern with a sense of. With a slight sense of dread, because it's difficult to see how it can go another way. So if you go to Old World rankings, which I'd suggest that you do, as frequently as you can, and pay Colin for some stuff. You then have to message him to tell him to stop the pop-up from coming up if you've paid for it, because it doesn't automatically do it, apparently. Oh, look, Jack Allen's top now. Well done, Jack. Phil Carl. Wow, Brits have beaten the Americans finally. The funny thing is, this is more or less, this is my formula with a few bits added to it. But more or less the same results. But anyway, throughout the entire 6 months of me trying to do rankings, Luna and Phil were top. and now they're not. It's got German. Scott Reed coming on. That's nice. In Germany, he might not be. But anyway, if you look at faction stats, this is a bit of a problem because, like, there's 54 events. So if you take N, as in number of instances examined, but if you take N to be the number of events, not the number of games, I don't think games is the right statistic, because I'm really more concerned about finishing positions at events rather than just wins and losses. Wins and losses, like the win percentage itself, doesn't really tell you a lot. It's that finishing position that tells you quite a lot. But anyway, if you've got 54 events, right, and the range is 24 to 87, that means it's perfectly normal for a player at a 4-game tournament to be winning 4 of their games, a 5-game tournament to be winning 4 of their games, right? The only other faction where you look at that range stat at the top there, the only other faction is Wild Herd, that's got 80. Now, some of them are close, but it's still... You're performing above average if you win 4 out of 5 at a 5-game tournament, right? Now, most 5-game tournaments nowadays, because of how easy it is to draw, 4 wins is normally puts you in line for the podium, right? So it's normal for Cathay to be competing for the podium. That's normal. That's like an average result. An average day at the office is getting on the podium for Cathay, and that's wrong. It is only 54 events, so there's a big error for margin at the moment. There's probably, I'd guess, around about a sort of an 8.79% error margin, something in that, just under 9, I think, is where we'd be up to at the moment. Once that event score gets up to about just over... Is it just under 500? I think it is just under 500, isn't it? I think it's like 492 or something like that. Then the error term gets to be around about 5%, and then once it gets up to about 10,000, then it gets down to 1%. So I think 5% error term is probably what we are aiming for. So yeah, but still, even if that's 10% wrong, 77% is still. Do you know what I mean? It's still very nearly there. But so this is a problem, and the difficulty is, how do you rebalance that? Wild Herds is an easy rebalance, right? It's a very, very easy rebalance. You get rid of the extra magic items, because I think it's the extra magic items and the extra 25. So you get 25 points extra magic items and 25 points extra with characters, and also they've got a very special form of gore and ungore herd where you can combine the two, and that's, I think, being able to go. What they've done with that is they've just given you points for gores and points for ungores and told you, oh, you can take these in the same unit now, and that in isolation is a bit broken because they're worth way more together than they are individually. Because essentially you've got ungores for dying and gores for killing, which is great. So it's almost like you've got 2 wound gores, more or less. And what does the other wound cost? It costs the price of an ungore. So like that's a bit unbalanced, to be honest. But I mean, Wild Herd, there's a fairly obvious fix, which is to limit the plus 25 points extra to just be mutations. I'd go for, because that's a bit more thematic. And I'd do something about the points within the sort of the combined Wild Herd thing. I think that would fix them and make them a bit closer to everybody else. But Cathay, it's really difficult to know what to fix because they've broken like literally everything that they do. They do amazingly well and better than everybody else. They do magic better than everybody else. They do the only thing they don't do better than anybody else. Sorry, and I did make this mistake last time. The only thing they don't do better than anybody else is cavalry. But then the cavalry do have particular strengths that no other cavalry have, in that they are proper thump and grind, loads and loads of attacks. Well worth having, 15 cavalry in a unit to get the ranks, because you can actually use them. Like, they're very, very good across the board. And like I said, even though their cavalry isn't Pegasus Knights, they're not terrible. Like, they're not Empire Knights, right? They're not Knights. They're not Empire Knights. They're way better. They're not Silver Helms. They're better than that. So, and they are core. And the value of like Empire Knights and Silver Helms is in the fact that they are in your core section. You can pay core tax with them, and they're okay, considering that you're paying core tax with them. Well, no, but with Cathay, they get Lancers that are better than those, objectively, definitely better. More or less the same points cost, always charging, decent weapons, and you can give them a 6 at ward for 1 point, as long as you got a dragon in your army. But still, so I mean, yeah, it's very difficult to know how they're going to balance it, other than giving everything a 20% points increase. But then that would be boring, because then you're just saying units are smaller, and you don't want small armies with Cathay. I want a big horde of like relatively okay troops that I can just sit on the table, and because that's kind of how they're playing the game, They have lots of missile troops and lots of shooting, and that's kind of how they function in Total War. And that's not what they've made of them, because they've forgotten to do all the handgun units, which is a bit of an oversight, considering they're like the coolest bit. Like, the coolest bit. Well, okay, the dragons are the coolest bit. But like in terms of the troops on the tabletop, oh yeah, and they got those. What the hell are they called? They got like elite knights and stuff as well, which are pretty cool, and work quite interestingly. But yeah, these boys, I really like them. They're great. They're really fun to play with as well. In the game as well. They're really, they do a lot of output. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, really. Other than, new Cathay's out. It's all right. It's taken a broken faction and given it mechanics that allow it to be potentially even more broken. But hey, that's rules creep. And again, check out my other video, which will talk to you about why rules creep happens and why it's sadly inevitable. And well, it's not it is inevitable if people don't work on identifying their subconscious biases, because and they're easy to identify and figure out over time. You occasionally say things that you don't agree with, or you occasionally do things that you don't feel are you, if that makes sense. And the answer to those is normally in behavioral sciences, in that there's some gut instinct that you're pursuing that's and so a combination of behavioural biases will automatically lead to rules creep. So unless the game devs like sit down and think, well, actually, what are we doing with this? What do we really want it to be like? And I guess this is the main disappointment for me with Cathay, is that after a year and a bit of them releasing Arcane journals, all of which have been quite balanced, very, very flavourful, thematically great. Like, it all felt like they turned a new leaf and they weren't doing that crap anymore. And Old World was going to be the game where they were going to get like decent game balance. And, occasionally a list might come along that blew the meta out the water, and that list would need nerfing. But in general, the whole thing looked like it was going to be fair and even and balanced, and they weren't going to be doing any of that crap anymore. And then the new models come out, and even so, actually, they released all these new characters with new models, and the rules weren't brilliant. Like, they were interesting. They gave Friedel allows you to be a bit more, reliable with your ambushes, but she's she's a combat character that's really not that good in combat. She's okay, but she's not that good. You had a Chaos Dragon as like a special character, which is cool. Level 4 wizard, first level 4 wizard special character, absolutely brilliant. However, comes with significant downsides. You know, in that occasionally it can't do anything. Like normally 1 turn out of 5, it doesn't do anything. And you know, knowing my luck, that'll be turn 2 when you actually need it. So yeah, I guess that's the real disappointment with Cathay, in that they haven't really thought about how to balance it and make it feel a certain way. They've just given Cathay everybody else's cool stuff, and it's just a bit, what identity do Cathay have other than just being the best? Like literally, the only identity that GW have given them is, oh, they look a bit Chinese and they're brilliant at everything, and that's their identity. And like, you know, and that's what high elves always were to an extent. Like they look a bit foreign and they look a bit sort of ancient Greek, and you know, they're just brilliant at everything because they're elves, right? And I guess that, you know, because they're elves is a decent excuse from a narrative perspective, but then you've got to do that with all elves, haven't you? Yeah, no, just high elves. Historically, anyway. Not in this edition, actually. The high elves, you know, and I was really hopeful after the high elf book drop because it wasn't broken. Like, I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to buy a high elf list and have a broken high elf list for a bit, but because, you know, I've had that done to me so many times in the past, I wanted to have a go at it myself. But you know, I guess I'll have to buy Cathay if I want to be that guy, but I don't want to be that guy. And like, what they've done really with Cathay is they've replaced what in the kind of like how you think about the meta. Like, they've replaced high elves with Cathay basically. So Cathay are the new high elves, which is funny because they're the new Lumineth as well. Like, I've said this before, but you look at their roster. You know, you've got a big Dragon Emperor thing that's pretty good at casting some pretty nasty spells. You've got some wizards that can, you know, essentially float around the battlefield and cause a bit of a nuisance. You've got a big floaty Death Star thing that does quite a bit of damage and is really difficult to pin down. Balloon. You've got some solid infantry that do infantry jobs very well. You've got some cavalry that aren't really as good as other cavalry, but fulfill a particular battlefield role that other cavalry don't. And you've got some pretty decent war machines that do more stuff than kill things. So it's basically Lumineth all over again. And actually rebalancing AOS after that balked Lumineth list took them quite a while, actually. It took them quite a while to get Lumineth to go back into the meta. And they're going to really struggle with getting Cathay to go back into the average meta. But I think more than that, the thing that I find most disappointing is that they don't have any identity. Like, the rules haven't given the faction, like, haven't given them, like for instance, Krace. You know, you're allowed to bring a wood with you and deploy it on the table. That's not you actually summoning a wood at the start of the battle, right? That's to reflect that these forces really only fight if there's woods there. They'll run away every other time and just disengage. You know, they need some woods on the table. I mean, I guess you could say in extremis that you've got like some magical acorn or whatever it may be. But I mean, whatever, that gives a bit of, there's some woods on the table. There's a bit of flavour to that. They do stuff around woods. They move through cover. They're very fast. They're very nimble. Like, all elves to an extent have some kind of move through cover ability. They're quite nippy. But they're fragile, right? They're easy enough to kill if you get your hands around them. It's just getting your hands around them that's the problem. You know, humans, there's loads of us. We breed like faster than the other races. So there's loads of us and we're cheap. We're not very good at anything though, because we don't live long enough to actually learn any like proper elite skills. And even our elite troops are really only as good as the average troops of the other races, because, well, the other races get to do that for hundreds of years, whereas we get to do it for tens if we're lucky. So, but we're a bit more poppy. Like, we'll take more risks and we'll try new things, and, you know, we'll have experimental technologies and stuff like that rather than tried and tested, because, again, we're on a mission because our lives are short. We've got to get shit done. Whereas the other races, because they live longer. Do you know what I mean? And then comes Cathay and it's like, it's just better at everything. And it's just like, well, what is it though? What is it? Comments down below. What do you think the identity of Cathay is, and what do you think it's supposed to be? Because I'm totally baffled. I've read the narrative bits in the books, and I still don't know. I don't know what they're going for. They just seem to go for, it just feels so cynical. Like, considering the rest of Old World has been so good, like in terms of like creating an identity and like, I don't get it. I just don't get why the design departure so much for Cathay. Like, it's really weird. Like, I get why rules creep happens, but rules creep happens over time, and it happens because like one faction gets a new cool thing, and then the next faction gets a new cool thing, and then basically the the latest release is so, because of rules creep, it's so much better than the thing that they started with. But actually, that's not what's happened here, because and we know that because the better factions in the game are still pretty much Bretonia and Tomb Kings, and they were the first two that they released. And they're still, arguably the two easier factions to play with. So, and arguably the two more successful factions. So, rules creep hasn't really happened for the entire year, and then they've given us all of the rules creep that every other faction probably should have had all at once in Cathay. And it just seems a bit, why go down that route as a design choice? Very odd. Very odd. And flipping annoying. Right. Anyway, that's my video on the new Cathay Arcane Journal thing. Other than that, I hope everybody's well. And comments down below if you think you can help me identify what the bloody character of Cathay is supposed to be, because I just can't get it, and I think it's that more than anything that's annoying me, because it just doesn't feel like it's got. Because it's like, are they super elite? Because they sort of are, because you can get them up to weapon skill 6, but then they're like 9 points. There's loads of them. So, what? But then they've only got rubbishy hand weapons that don't really do a lot of damage. So, like, what? How? What? Like, what is it? What is it? What is it? Anyway, toodaloo.